The city lights flickered outside as Thomas Reynolds, a man known in business circles as one of the wealthiest restaurateurs in the state, quietly slipped into one of his own diners. But tonight, he wasn't Thomas Reynolds, the CEO. He wasn't wearing his tailored suits or gold cufflinks. Instead, he wore faded jeans, a plain shirt, and a baseball cap pulled low. For months, he had wondered if the stories he heard from his managers were true. Complaints about rude staff, whispers about overworked employees, and customers who sometimes left without a smile. It ate away at him. His diners were supposed to be places of warmth, family, and comfort, not just businesses. So tonight, Thomas came in undercover, not as the CEO, but as an ordinary customer. He slid into a booth by the window. The waitress, tired and distracted, dropped a menu onto the table without looking at him. Her eyes were heavy, her smile forced. Thomas didn't judge. He knew people carried weights unseen. He ordered a simple meal, grilled chicken with mashed potatoes, and sat back, watching, listening. The diner was busy. Teenagers laughed over milkshakes, a young couple shared fries, and a truck driver sipped his coffee in silence. To anyone else, it was just another night. But Thomas studied the details, the way the waitress sighed after every table, how the cook in the back shouted orders, and how the dishwasher, a boy no older than 16, rubbed his tired eyes between stacks of dirty plates. His meal arrived lukewarm. He didn't complain. He ate slowly, scanning the place, until something unusual reached his ears. A sound. It wasn't the clinking of silverware, the chatter of customers, or the sizzling of food on the grill. It was faint, muffled, but it pierced through the noise. It was crying, a soft, broken sob, coming from the back kitchen. Thomas's fork froze in his hand. He set it down, wiped his mouth, and listened more carefully. Yes, there it was again. A woman's voice, cracked with pain, muffled as though she didn't want to be heard. Curiosity and concern pulled him from his seat. He walked quietly past the counter, slipping toward the kitchen doors. No one noticed him. He pushed the door open just enough to peer inside. And there he saw her. In the far corner of the kitchen, near the employee lockers, sat a young woman in a faded uniform. Her apron was stained, her hair tied messily, and her shoulders trembled as she covered her face with her hands. She was crying as if the world had broken her. Thomas hesitated. He had no right to intrude, but something in his heart told him to step forward. Slowly, he walked closer until the woman noticed and quickly wiped her tears, trying to stand. I'm sorry, she stammered. I'll get back to work. Please don't tell anyone. Thomas raised a gentle hand. No, it's okay, he said softly. You don't have to explain if you don't want to. But, are you all right? The woman shook her head, biting her lip to keep from crying again. No, but it doesn't matter. I have to keep working. Her voice cracked, and in that moment, Thomas didn't see an employee. He saw a human being crushed under burdens no one else noticed. Tell me, he said quietly. What's going on? Her walls broke. Words tumbled out between sobs. Her name was Maria. She had worked at the diner for 2 years, always the first to arrive and the last to leave. But life outside these walls was merciless. Her husband had left, abandoning her with 2 children, one of them sick, needing constant medical care. She worked double shifts, often skipping meals, just to keep the lights on at home. And now, the landlord had given her an eviction notice. She had 3 days to come up with the money or she and her kids would be homeless. I can't do it, Maria whispered, her hands trembling. I can't lose my kids' home. But I don't know where else to turn. Thomas felt his throat tighten. The weight of her words, the rawness of her pain, it cut deep. He wanted to tell her right then and there who he was, that she wasn't just talking to a stranger, but to the man who owned the roof above her head at work. But he stayed silent, choosing instead to listen, to let her unburden her soul. When she finished, she wiped her face, forced a shaky smile, and whispered, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said all that. Thank you for listening, but I have to get back to work. She tried to walk past him, but Thomas gently placed a hand on her shoulder. You've carried so much for so long, he said softly. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is let someone help. Maria shook her head. No one helps people like me. Thomas's eyes burned with unshed tears. Maybe tonight, that changes. He left the kitchen, his heart pounding. He sat back at his booth and pulled out his phone. Within minutes, he had called the diner's manager to meet him immediately. When the manager arrived, Confused to see him in disguise, Thomas revealed his true identity. The manager's jaw dropped, but Thomas quickly held a finger to his lips. "I'm not here as your CEO," Thomas said. "I'm here as a man who just learned one of our hardest working employees is drowning, and we never noticed." That night, after the diner closed, Thomas gathered the staff. Maria stood in the corner, her face pale, worried she had done something wrong. Then Thomas walked up to her, removing his cap, and said gently, "Maria, I have something to tell you. My name is Thomas Reynolds. I'm not just a customer. I'm the owner of this diner, and every diner with this name across the state." The room fell silent. Maria froze, her hands trembling. "And tonight," Thomas continued, his voice breaking, "I heard your cry. And I can't, no, I won't let someone as hardworking and selfless as you lose everything." Tears filled Maria's eyes. "Sir, I didn't mean to." He raised a hand to stop her. "You've given so much of yourself. Now, it's time someone gives back to you." In front of everyone, Thomas announced that he was paying off Maria's rent, covering her child's medical bills, and promoting her to assistant manager with better pay and benefits. The staff erupted in applause, but Maria stood in shock, her knees weak as tears streamed down her face. She fell to her knees, whispering, thank you, you saved my children." Thomas knelt beside her, lifting her gently. "No, Maria, you saved yourself. You fought, you endured, and you kept going even when life tried to break you. All I did was finally see you." That night, Maria went home not in despair, but in hope. Her children hugged her tightly when she told them the news, their laughter echoing through their small apartment. And Thomas, he drove home in silence, his heart full, realizing that sometimes, the greatest impact a CEO could make wasn't in profits or expansion, but in listening to the quiet cries of the unseen. Because true leadership isn't measured by the size of an empire, but by the depth of compassion. Final closure, narration style. And so, friends, let us never forget, sometimes the person serving you carries battles you cannot see. A kind word, an open heart, or even listening for the cries in the silence can change a life forever. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that remind us of the power of kindness.